Money has always played a role in politics on both sides of the aisle. But in Colorado, some of the biggest political spenders aren't focusing on Republicans. They're spending millions in Democratic primary races, backing candidates they believe can shape policy at the state capitol. On this episode of Real Talk with Micah Smith, we take a closer look at dark money, who's spending the money and why, plus what it could mean for Colorado voters. Welcome to Real Talk with Micah Smith. I'm your host, Micah, and I am so glad to have you with us. Another primary election in Colorado. You've probably been overwhelmed by the constant stream of campaign mailers and attack ads leading up to Election Day. But there's something happening in a less in-your-face way that's bankrolling some of these commercials and possibly has an even bigger influence on your vote. That's dark money. The term refers to political spending from groups that don't have to fully disclose who is funding them. This year, millions of dollars are flowing into Colorado races. What makes this cycle different is who's spending the money and who they're trying to elect. So instead of backing Republicans in a state where Democrats control the Capitol, some conservative-leaning groups are spending heavily in Democratic primary races to help elect more moderate Democrats. I wanted to dig into who's behind the spending and how much influence it really has. So I spoke to University of Denver political science professor Seth Maskett to learn more. What is dark money and how are we seeing it flow through Colorado?
Dark money can refer to a number of different things, but generally we're talking about a type of outside money used in campaigns. It doesn't really come from the parties, it doesn't come from the candidates themselves. It comes from organizations that, thanks to various changes in rules and Supreme Court rulings, they don't really have to report who their donors are. They don't really have to report, where they're spending the money or anything like that. They are just trying to influence the outcome of elections. And there's a lot more money flowing into that in recent years. And it's just basically, it's hard to know who's responsible for it. It's hard to know who's actually coordinating all these messages and who essentially wants credit for it if they are able to affect the outcome of a race.
Here in Colorado, this primary season, we have seen so much money spent on political ads, on TV, on the radio, YouTube, mailers as well. And it seems as though there are millions of dollars in dark money flowing into our primaries. Why is that?
Simply because there's a lot of interests that see that as the way to actually influence election outcomes. There are pretty tight limits on what an individual donor can give to a candidate. There are pretty tight limits on what you can give to a party or what a party can do for a candidate. There aren't really limits on what these dark money groups can spend. There aren't really limits on what an individual person can give to them. So this allows someone with a lot of resources, millionaires, billionaires if they want, to exert a little more influence over elections than just by donating to candidates or to parties. I think what you have is a little different in this cycle is that you have a lot of competitive primary races. Particularly in Colorado state legislature. You usually don't see many competitive primaries, but here we've got a fair number, and a lot of groups are seeing this as a place where they can actually exert some influence and pick the kind of legislature they want.
Yeah, we're especially seeing a lot of interest on the Democratic side. In your expertise, why so much interest on the Democratic side?
In the last few election cycles, it's become clear that Colorado is just a very solidly Democratic state. Republicans haven't won a statewide race here since 2014. They're not in any real shot of taking control of any house of the state legislature right now. So increasingly, just interest groups, donors are seeing that the Democratic Party is really the only game in town if they want to be influential on what happens in the next legislative session. So you see a lot of the real fights going on between sort of more progressive and more moderate voices within the Democratic Party right now.
One nonprofit that has popped up in recent years that we've seen a lot of coverage on is One Main Street Colorado, that's funding quite a few super PACs. What do you know about One Main Street Colorado?
They seem to be rallying around a little more moderate candidates, more mainstream Democrats. Sometimes they're defending Democratic incumbents, and others they're just trying to go with somewhat more business-friendly group of Democrats. They would generally not align themselves with the more progressive wing of the party. And we don't totally know what all their resources are like, but they've been able to throw around a lot of money in this race. And there's a lot of candidates that are clearly dependent on them.
Is there any inkling of where their money is coming from or what industry might be behind them?
I mean, we just know it's a number of business-friendly groups, but I don't think we know exactly like who is doing most of this donating.
Are there Democratic candidates that are welcoming this dark money?
Some. I mean, definitely there are, more conventional Democrats that are really, thankful for this kind of support. One thing that's really going on that we're seeing this year is, there's kind of a progressive moment on the left. I mean, there's always been that faction of the party. But sort of like in 2018, there are a lot of candidates interested in running as progressives, as sort of alternatives to the current Democratic Party. They're upset with their party's leadership both in Colorado and in Washington, D.C. They don't see the party as fighting hard enough against Donald Trump or fighting hard enough for progressive causes. And they want to try and take over the party. They want to try and appoint or nominate what candidates they can, and if possibly take down a number of Democratic incumbents in the process to make for essentially a stronger, more strident party. So there's a lot of incumbents who are trying to keep their jobs. They're trying to protect what they see as the proper role for the Democratic Party. They want to keep their party more electable. And so they're very happy to have this kind of support. We saw a similar thing in 2018 where there were a lot of progressive challengers in Democratic primaries. For the most part, Democratic incumbents kept their jobs. They were able to survive primary challenges, in part because interests more loyal to the traditional Democratic Party had their backs.
What should voters be paying attention to even once we get past this primary season and we head into midterms?
Well, yeah, I mean, most of these contests that we're seeing right now in these Democratic primaries are in pretty safe districts for Democrats. It's not really likely to flip a race in November. It's mostly going to be what sort of Democrat ends up representing that. There's a few exceptions to that, right? Like we're seeing in the 8th congressional district right now, which really is a toss-up. And depending on who wins that could determine who actually wins in November in the general election. So that's an interesting thing to look at, is the stances that are taken now, the fights that Democrats are having right now among each other. Do those stretch forward into November, or does the party essentially unify pretty quickly after next Tuesday? We've seen in the past that there tends to be a lot of voter anger about the amount of money being spent, particularly when it's coming from sources that are hard to trace. That has fueled various campaign finance reform efforts in the past. We may be seeing that again in the years to come, depending on what happens this year. But right now, we're just seeing more and more money going to these types of groups.
As Seth and I discussed, One Main Street is a nonprofit that's supported incumbent and more moderate Democrats. I reached out to Executive Director of One Main Street, Andrew Short, to ask about the nonprofit's use of dark money to support one Democrat over another. He sent me a statement which reads in part, One Main Street Colorado is a labor-led coalition of blue-collar workers, tradespeople, firefighters, Colorado business owners, and community leaders committed to expanding the middle class and delivering results for Colorado families. The difference isn't who calls themselves progressive. The difference is who delivers progress for everyday people. That's what we're focused on because that's what Colorado families expect from Democratic leaders. So I had a really open and honest conversation with Andrew, and I am thankful that he did send us that statement to give One Main Street's perspective. Coming up, keeping up with dark money. A Democratic strategist joins me to share what it's like for campaigns dealing with outside influences and what it takes to stay competitive. This is Real Talk with Micah Smith. Welcome back to Real Talk with Micah Smith. Outside money is flooding into Colorado's primary races this election cycle. In some cases, super PACs and other groups are spending more than the candidates are raising themselves. Since a 2010 Supreme Court ruling, outside groups have been able to spend unlimited money in elections. That can shape the messages voters see and hear before they cast their ballots. So What impact does this have on the people actually running for office? I spoke with Democratic campaign strategist David Sabados, who is managing multiple campaigns this cycle, about the challenges of competing against these groups. So today we are talking about dark money. You are currently helping with multiple campaigns. What has been your experience with dark money this Colorado primary season?
We're seeing an unprecedented amount of money flowing into Democratic primaries. In one of the races I'm helping, for about every dollar that the opponent's actual campaign is spending, there's $9 of dark money supporting that race instead.
Wow. What does that equate to in terms of trying to campaign and keep up with that amount of money flowing into these races?
We might see $1 million state house race, is what that means. It means people are getting bombarded with mail. They're getting paid canvassers knocking on their door every day, asking who they're going to vote for. And they're getting just attack ad after attack ad every time they look at the TV or open the internet.
Yeah. I think the $1 million question for voters is why?
Sure. So Colorado has shifted a little more blue in the past decade or so. And so you have a lot of conservative interests that used to support Republican candidates, and now they're looking for influence in the Democratic Party. So they've realized they need to spend their money in the Democratic primary instead of in the general election.
And why is that?
So if you're, say, the oil and gas industry, you see a dwindling Republican Party and a growing Democratic majority in the legislature. And if you want influence with the majority party and enough influence in the legislature, you need to work to elect folks who are going to be favorable to your side. But you also know Democratic primary voters aren't going to respond well to vote for so-and-so paid for by the oil and gas industry. And so they're taking corporate money, they're washing it through nonprofit organizations, and then it pops up into these independent expenditure committees that appear overnight, start sending out mail and attack ads that same day, and then disappear immediately after the election.
How has all of this dark money impacted the campaigns that you've been working on?
We're exhausted. It's hard to keep up with. And in a way, the money's become the story in a lot of ways. There are policy differences between candidates, but the money ends up being this overarching piece because people are asking, who's paying for all of this? Who's paying for the 10 mailers that just showed up in my house saying, so-and-so is an amazing candidate? And so we end up talking more about the funding behind the opposition than the opposition's viewpoints.
Does that put you at a disadvantage?
I think the money certainly puts candidates at a disadvantage. Statistically, campaigns that have more money end up doing better. And there is so much money behind some of these candidates that it's hard to break through. One of my candidates, Kenny Wynn, he's a young progressive in Broomfield, young guy. And so he gets mistaken at the door for paid canvassers for the opposition often. And he has to explain, no, I'm the candidate who's running against all of this dark money. And it's actually, challenging in that way. In North Denver, where I live, we're seeing, again, just mailer after mailer for a dark money supported candidate. And the candidate I'm working with, Chela Garcia Orlando, has to, break through that as much as we can. And so she's going door to door. We're sending out the normal amount of mail, but it certainly is challenging.
Yeah. You recently filed a complaint against a PAC, I believe. Was it a PAC?
An independent expenditure committee.
Okay, you filed a complaint against an independent expenditure committee. What was the root of your complaint?
Sure. So this is in Adams County. And there's so many of these dark money groups that pop up overnight that I think they can't keep them straight half the time. There's one that popped up to attack Tyler Quick, who's running for Adams County Commissioner. And the stated purpose of that committee says that they're working to elect legislative candidates. This is a local race. And so this is a dark money group that tries to hide its funders, that states that they're running support ads for these campaigns, but are actually working over here. And Secretary of State agreed with us.
So what happens next?
They have the option of getting fined. They have the option of just correcting it. That's out of our hands.
Yeah. What should voters be paying attention to when it comes to the amount of dark money flowing into Colorado primaries, specifically Democratic primaries?
When you get that ad in the mail or you see that ad online, look at that paid for disclaimer and Google it. And Google the organization. And there are a lot of legitimate organizations that are spending money. There's organizations like Conservation Colorado, which is a well-respected environmental organization that's sending mail. And you can look them up and you can see what they stand for and you know why they're sending mail. But when you get a piece of mail from an organization you've never heard of with some name like Promoting Progressive Women, look up what that organization is. And if the only hits you're getting on Google are news articles about them being a dark money group, that gives you your answer about who's really backing these people.
Well, I think about the nonprofit One Main Street Colorado. I just cruised through their website today. And if you were to look at their website, it looks like they're very progressive. They're talking about bringing members of unions together and affordable housing and expanding the middle class. Do you think that's deceptive?
Absolutely. There's been some great investigative journalism work actually about One Main Street specifically that has found that they're funded by the oil and gas industry. They have ties to private prisons. They have ties to school privatization. They have ties to all of the conservative interests that are playing in the Democratic primary. But do your homework and look into who's funding these mailers that are showing up in your mailbox. Look up who's funding these attack ads that you're seeing on TV.
Coming up, we're taking a look back on how dark money played a big part in Denver school board races. And we're directly hearing from those in support of this kind of campaign funding. This is Real Talk with Micah Smith. Welcome back to Real Talk with Micah Smith. We're continuing our conversation on dark money and its potential to have a huge influence on Colorado Democratic primary races as millions of dollars continue to pour into our state. This isn't the first time we've seen it shape local elections. In 2023, Denver 7 took a 360 look at heavy outside spending in the Denver Public Schools Board election. Tonight, we revisit that report to show how this continues to influence who represents us. Denver 7's Russell Haythorne followed the money trail and sheds light on the role of dark money in that race.
So-called dark money is once again at the center of the Denver school board race, which is causing concern among candidates and watchdog groups.
It's disappointing, but it also really makes me angry.
The biggest problem is we don't know where the money's coming from.
The biggest spender in this year's race is an independent expenditure committee called Better Leaders, Stronger Schools, and is funded largely by Denver Families Action, which, according to Influence Watch, has the backing of local and national charter school networks and works to elect candidates who support charters and the school voucher system. Spokesmen for both of those groups are unapologetic about the amount of spending in Denver.
What we've seen is a lack of trust. It's broken trust is what I would call it, between community and between the Board of Education.
What I know is that the current board has not gotten the job done.
Pro-charter outside money is outspending the local teachers union by about 4-1 this election cycle, and some argue the money is all about privatizing local schools.
When we're talking privatization, it really is about removing local control.
Dark money has been influencing elections for years, including a flood of cash that poured in back in 2019 and became a huge focus of local reporting.
By candidates whose campaigns were funded and driven and then agendized by outside corporate interests.
Makes you wonder, what about a voluntary position on the school board is so attractive?
Here's how it's connected to this year's Denver school board race. In the at-large race, one candidate has dropped out. There are 3 left, but only one appears to be benefiting from this money, John Youngquist. And Better Leaders, Stronger Schools, an IEC or Independent Expenditure Committee, has spent more than $1 million. The ad getting the most headlines, a negative mailer targeting at-large candidate Kwame Spearman, which calls Spearman a bully.
$80,000 was spent on a mailer that went all throughout Denver, which its entire focus was negative personal attacks about me that I think many people interpreted to be a dog whistle for racism.
The mailer features a shadowed photo of Spearman on one side.
Then on the other side of the mailer, the only image was a white child who was seemingly crying.
When we're talking a school board race, it does give you pause to think, why don't you focus on your candidate's qualifications? Why are you having to go after and try to discredit the other side?
According to Influence Watch, billionaire Netflix CEO Reed Hastings has suggested eliminating locally elected school boards entirely in favor of privatization, and his money is behind these operations.
We're a committee that's put together to invest and support candidates who support a new future.
Daniel Ashkenazi is the registered agent of the IEC Better Leaders, Stronger Schools, and he says the Kwame Spearman mailer is about character.
The character of the candidate running at large that you're referring to is well documented. My job is to bring the politics here. This is an election. I need to get as many voters out to vote for these candidates as possible.
A big chunk of Better Leaders, Stronger Schools funding is coming from this group, Denver Families Action, which was established only months before this election and has a huge amount of national funding from billionaire donors to canvass neighborhoods and engage voters who might not otherwise show up in an off-election year.
When you have elections and the stakes are high, it's going to draw in resources.
I support DPS. DPS has an ecosystem of choice, which has charter schools that are public and has traditional schools. John Youngquist, Marlene De La Rosa, and Kimberly Sia make up 60 years of education experience, a lot of that here in DPS.
In the final days of the campaign, as the spending ramps up, so does the door knocking.
My name's Kwame. I'm running for school board.
Denver 7 reached out to John Youngquist's campaign and Brittany Johnson's campaign in the at-large race to provide the same opportunity. They did not respond.
I want to see a board that is not tied by dysfunction.
We can, as a community, begin to say, we're not playing the game that way anymore.
What is the work that we're doing and how is it reflective of community?
We know that what voters want
In Denver,
is to remove politics from our school board.
Russell Hatham, Denver 7.
Again, that report was from 2023. In case you're wondering, in the citywide at-large race back in 2023, John Youngquist beat Kwame Spearman by a wide margin. And that brings us to the end of this week's episode of Real Talk with Micah Smith on dark money. We hope we've given you a holistic view of a very complex issue, an issue we will continue to follow. We are so thankful that every week you choose to tune in for this real talk on issues that impact Coloradans who are often overlooked. If there's a real talk you would like to have, please let me know. You can send me an email at micah.smith@denver7.com. In the meantime, you can find all of our shows on denver7.com/realtalk. Have a great day.